Hey guys, what's up? It's your host, Game Pizza Boy, host of the Pizza Party. Welcome back to the channel. I hope we're all doing fantastic today. And I'm back for another video, and this time a little bit something different. But before I begin with this, I want to quickly make a note, though, that I have been once again absent on DVD yet again. Although I'm pretty sure it's more fair, even more, because once again, DVD's in a really pretty bad state right now with everything that's been going on since the latest update on the Walking Dead chapter, its update itself. And also the fact that if you saw that recent live stream that happened, it's not really good. It's not really good at all. So I, once again, am putting myself kind of away from the game a little bit more right now until hopefully things get better. If it does get better, I probably will have a video out someday in the future, probably sooner or later, to discuss my personal thoughts about everything that's been going on, about the recent update and situations, and some pointers that I want to kind of feel, and maybe even discuss about that recent live stream situation. But until then, I kind of want to do something a little bit different. So as you notice, I am doing a video based on the Outlast Trials. If you don't know what the Outlast Trials is, basically the third installment of the game of the entirety of the Outlast series, which is a never very popular horror series. And I'm a huge fan of the Outlast series. I love them so much. It's one of my personal favorite horror games. And I played a bit of this game when it came out a few months after it launched, and then kind of stopped because it just kind of got a little bit lamed out a bit. And I came back after Season 3 came out and been playing and streaming the game again since, up until now with Season 4. And I've been having a lot more fun with this game than I ever did with like any games I've been playing lately right now. And I thought about myself, maybe I could dedicate some time to make some content for the game a little bit. Maybe I'll make some future content drop videos. Maybe I'll do some stuff, maybe discussing lore, maybe if I feel like it, and just some other stuff. And I thought about maybe, first of all, to discuss for today's video, I thought about discussing my personal thoughts on what I think about the rigs. And I want to kind of see if I want to decide what I think is considerably my least or worst pick of any of the rigs to my most greatest, or to me, one of the best, my favorite ones. Basically, if you don't know what a rig is, basically the rigs are these unique powers and abilities you can use in the game, and you can use one of many of these different variations, and they all come with their own upgrades and stuff like that. And I kind of want to discuss on each and every one of them and give you guys a rundown about what they do, and then I will then rate them all pretty much from the total what they have right there. There's currently about a total of 6 in there right now: the stun, blind, heal, x-ray, barricade, and jammer rigs. And obviously, until any new one does come out, I want to just kind of get a head start with this video in mind and just do my full discussion. I'll go through everything so I can give you guys the lowdown about exactly what they all do, stats and all that stuff, and then kind of give you my personal preference on what I feel about them, how I feel about them, and then at the end, I will then rate them and decide what I think is truly the best and which I think is considerably the worst. Take note, though, this is just my opinion, though, of course, so if you have anything different to me, feel free to let me know in the comments below. This is just my personal preference, but I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on what they think is considerably one of their favorite rigs and what's their least favorites. So feel free to let me know, of course. But before we begin, as always, if you enjoy your time at the Pizza Party and want to show your support, don't forget to hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. I would appreciate that for sure. Comment below, let me know what your thoughts about this video if you found it helpful, like if you found this fun. And make sure you also go take a look at all my stuff down below in the multi-link in the description if you guys want to also go check me out when I go live on Twitch and Kick, besides here on YouTube, which I do go live mostly on weekdays at 12 p.m. CST. And also come join my Discord server, all that stuff. I would appreciate all the amazing support and get to hang out with all you lovely Pizza Party guests and members, as always. Now, let me not delay us with the inevitable. Let's get right into it, and let's have some fun discussing these rigs and what I think is considered the best to the worst. Kicking things off, let's start things off, of course, with probably one that I'm pretty sure a lot of players on the Outlast Trials use quite a lot, including myself, the stun rig. The stun rig basically is a unique device that allows you to throw it like many different items, like a brick or a bottle, but once it throws them into the ground or any kind of surface whatsoever, even to ever X-Pops or prime assets, it will detonate and blow up, emitting a electric shock, and it will temporarily stun and disorient any enemies nearby. Basically, it's a nice way to kind of throw something at enemies, but it acts a little more powerful than your typical brick, mostly. Even more powerful than even just simply like using strong arm, basically the amp, which makes bricks and balls much more stronger. And even if you aim for the head too, it's even more better and stronger than that too as well. So it's literally powerful than even a brick or a bottle completely, and it's really good. It usually lasts for about 5 seconds for the stun, and then afterwards it goes on a very long, lengthy 180-second cooldown. It has a 3-meter range. It can cause a lot of noise, about 18 meters. So it will emit noise and let everyone know any within range, of course. But it won't even matter, though, much, because if you're using it on enemies, it will really, of course, come in handy to help deal with that. You can, though, use it on hiding spots. So you do need to be out in the opening, of course. And the only one thing, though, about this ability that was also maybe slightly nicer, at least, is that the Jaeger can be stunned briefly with this, too. Who, if you don't know, the Jaeger is a one-hit kill, one-kill, basically, threat that appears every now and then, occasionally, during the more tougher difficulties of different trials. And usually, typically, if you actually run into them, you cannot affect them with any bricks, something like that. But this can actually briefly stun them sometimes. So this can come in handy a bit if you want to use it on them, though I probably recommend not using it on them just for them and not wasting it for them only, and just try using it on other related people of X-Pops or Prime Assets in the game, including traps. Because this also can do is take out traps too as well, which can really come in handy too as well when you get the certain upgrade in mind. When you get the upgrade, it will actually come in handy, so it's really helpful. I find this really great and to be used a lot. For the upgrades, there are a total of at least about, I believe, 8. There are a total of 8 upgrades. One is just to add, the first one is just to activate the one, but once you get through each of them, which requires you to spend 2 vouchers, which you get each time you level up, of course, in the game, they will, of course, upgrade it to its full extent, and it will make it powerful. If you reach the second upgrade, it will expand the radius of it, so basically making it increase its range from 3 meters to 6 meters, so it can reach far enough to any enemies and traps. The third upgrade is Disarm, which will make it where, of course, all traps, door traps, enemy mines, anything like that will be destroyed by the explosion. This is a very essential upgrade that I recommend definitely getting for sure when you get through the stun rig, because it really comes in handy. Because with this upgrade combined with another upgrade, which we'll mention in just a moment, it can really come in handy quite a bit to deal with a lot of traps. This is a really good trap destroyer. It really helps against traps a lot, and it will come in handy because there are going to be some moments where if you're playing on, obviously, the intensive or the psychosurgery difficulties, which is basically insane mode, basically, for Outlast Trials, it's going to get very tricky when you're dealing with a lot of different Prime Assets, X-Pops, and even these traps at the same time, depending on the different variations you're dealing with. So this can come in handy quite a bit, just in case if you need to deal with it. So I recommend you get this upgrade for sure. The fourth upgrade is the Extend Duration, which just extends the duration of the stun effect for people. It will extend it at duration from 5 seconds to 8 seconds, so it makes them last a bit longer, which will come in handy. Though, the Jaeger is immune to this effect, of course, or since it's only a brief stun for them, so they will not be affected by this in any way, shape, or form. So be mindful about that, of course. Next upgrade is called Restore, and this just reduces the cooldown of the timer if you don't hit any enemies with this rig at all. So basically, if you use it and you don't hit an enemy, the cooldown will be reduced by 75%, cutting off a lot of time to get your use of it once more. This can come in handy quite a bit if you want to use this on traps, because this is actually the perk I mentioned that's going to be good and combined with Disarm, because if you throw this on a trap, traps do not count. It will count on enemies, but not traps, which means you can make this a very heavily anti-trap rig, and it will help you out quite a lot to deal with it. So you throw this down with multiple different traps, and they're gone just like that, meaning you'll be able to use it very quickly and swiftly again for any future X-Pops or Prime Assets, and you got rid of any traps when you're trying to like go back for an objective or go through an objective. It helps out quite a bit, very much for sure. It deals with many kinds of traps. It deals with the mines, it deals with the door traps, it deals with any unique Prime Asset traps. It can really come handy quite a bit, so definitely combining this for sure can really do some pretty good damage against that for sure. Electric Boost is the next upgrade, and this makes it where any players within the blast radius will immediately regain some battery and stamina. Basically, you use this at all in any shape or form whatsoever, and you manage to, of course, have anyone within the blast radius, including yourself, obviously, you and everyone will gain a bit of battery and stamina back, which is very helpful in case you want to use it, since it's going to be very essential to make sure you have enough battery storage and or stamina in case you're running away from enemies, or if you need to see yourself from the night vision in the dark. So this can also be pretty good. Decrease cooldowns to 7th upgrade, which just reduces the cooldown overall the timer before the rig could be used again. So instead of it now being 180 seconds, it goes down to 144 seconds. So if that's significant time drop, it really helps out quite a bit. And if you combine that with, of course, Restore, that means you're going to get a chance to get rid of the traps even more. So that's even another great one. The last one, which I'm going to mention, is going to be the perk that's used by pretty much every single rig that's going to have as the final upgrade, and that's called Prepared. And basically, this just makes the rig prepared for use at the beginning of the trial. Basically makes it where Obviously, if you start the trial, and even affects X when you are revived or respawn after dying, if you have enough lives, you get it back again. So it's a nice way to kind of help you get back in action, and to, of course, you know, come back with a rig or get into the next trial with the rig already prepared, so you can use in case anything kind of heads up pretty much for sure. The stun rig is very much one of the most biggest and most craziest, greatest rigs in the Outlast Trials completely, because the fact that you could just use this and pop this a lot very easily. Not only you're getting yourself a chance to deal with many threats, but you're dealing with traps, which can come in handy quite well. It's a very basically anti-threat rig. It can allow you to be able to just take out any threats, take out any traps, and it has a lot of different ways to help you in many situations based on if you attack a threat or not. You don't attack a threat, you'll get easy cooldown speed time reduced. If you hit someone there, they last too long on to allow them to be stunned, giving you a chance to escape, or, of course, to keep them holding off while doing your objectives. Overall, it's one of the best rigs, I would say, in my opinion right now. Before we get to the number ranking, I just think I'll just say that in my opinion so far. And you'll obviously guess where it's going to be, but we'll get to that soon. But the stun rig highly is just one of the most best rigs you could possibly imagine, and it can really save a game very easily, and it has helped me a lot in many different runs when I'm playing on intensive or psychosurgery. And if you have teammates running this as well too, at least maybe two at least, you will for sure rock and roll very much with these, dealing with all those nasty traps and even dealing with those X-Pops and prime assets. It can really help out a lot. It can save you in many situations possible. Moving on, next is the blind rig, which basically acts as a mine you can place down on the ground and allows you to, whenever an enemy steps on it, it will explode and it will emit a temporary blinding explosion of smoke to enemy enemies, stunning them in their tracks. It's pretty much like the stun rig, but it's a mine version of it. It can be deployed within 4 seconds and when being used. It has a cooldown of 180 seconds after being used. You can only, however, place one at a time, so be mindful though, you can only, of course, place one at a time, obviously. It has a smoke duration of 15 seconds, so it will have a smoke that will block and blind any nearby enemies that are within the way right there. But of course within that time, they also are stun whoever gets caught in their tracks right there, so that really comes in handy quite a bit. It has a 1.5 meter range when it's being triggered, of course, and has a 2.25 meter range for the smoke, obviously. It does not make any noise whatsoever, making it a very silent related attack, of course. So even if it explodes, no one around is going to hear the noise whatsoever, or if they're not that close at all whatsoever. You can use it on hiding spots, of course, so same thing with a stun rig, you need to be out in the opening completely. Now, during the smoke, though, most enemies cannot attack or see inside of smoke, so that's really great. So even if those who have not been stunned start to walk through the smoke, they can't see you, which means they can't attack, and they even can't attack whatsoever when that happens. And the effect of it, however, is only immune to both the Berserker and the Jaeger, so both those are not affected by the effect of it, where it makes them not be able to attack you or see in the smoke, which means the Berserker, of course, when he's obviously listening for noise and stuff like that, they will still detect where you are, because obviously they can't see, they can only just hear, so they'll know where you are still. And the Jaeger will still track you down no matter what, of course. Though, just like the stun rig, the blind rig can stun it just briefly a bit too, though not a lot. It's a nice rig in its own way. Basically, it's just like the stun rig, but it gives a nice little treat where it basically lets you just place it down for certain tricks and traps right there on enemies. The rig itself, though, requires a lot of certain, precision and timing, basically, to figure out where you want to place it down. You got to figure out good placement ideas, try to figure out where you want to go around. My guess pretty much is just to figure out a place where if you're like in a, certain situation where you're kind of stuck in one room, or if you need to, of course, place it in places where you think the X-Pops and the prime assets will appear eventually, and if they do, you have that as a backup just in case, to watch your back for you, just in case, so that you could be able to just use that on them just in case of mine, and you can get yourself out of there very much with ease, or at least have enough time to finish your objective before running out of there, of course. Just keep note, though, is that you won't have anything else to defend you besides that, so after it's gone on, it can't be used again. Nonetheless, of course, use, obviously, certain upgrades that will help out that mine. Just be mindful, though, you can only deploy one mine at a time. If you deploy another one, it will shut down and get rid of the other mine previously you used before, so you got to make sure you be careful where you're going to place it, and if you're going to use it any time, of course, at certain situations, doing objectives or trying to get around. So figure out and place wisely on where you want to use your blind rig, of course. Overall, it's a not bad one. I still think the stun rig is a little more effective, in my opinion, a little bit more, but it's still a really good tree. But the upgrades, though, are also quite juicy in their way, too. So let's get right into it. Just take note, though, I will not be mentioning the 8th upgrade anymore because prepared is used by everyone, so you already know the gist of it. Every one of them has, of course, the word air prepare for the rest of the trial, of course. For the second upgrade you get is the expand radius, which just, of course, as you guess, expands the radius of the explosion, which increases the smoke range of it from 2.25 meters to 4.25 meters, meaning it's a much bigger reach now for anyone within it that will get affected by the smoke's effect, which can come in handy quite a bit so that you can make sure that no one can still attack you or see you inside the smoke. Just remember, though, it only works on everyone else besides the Berserkers and the Jaeger. To deploy a technique, what this one does, it lets you quickly deploy the mine. It just mines itself by 1 second, so instead of taking 4 seconds to deploy the mine, it takes 3 seconds. Just a short duration, slightly not bad though, of course. It is a little bit quick. So just figure out your timing placements wisely and figure out where you want to place it, and there you go. Extend duration, which makes it where it extends the duration of the blinding smoke. So instead of it lasting 15 seconds, it lasts for 20 seconds. Recharge makes it where after the mine has been triggered or occurs, and it only occurs once, it will rearm after being triggered. So that means, obviously, if you have a mine place and you let it be triggered, if the mine is, of course, at all whatsoever, like, is left there for time being, and for about 30 seconds, it will rearm itself to be used for a second time, meaning you'll have a better chance to kind of use it again if you want to. So this means anytime you place down another mine, as long as, of course, obviously, it gets triggered, it will then reoccur once more and rearm, so it could be used a second time. Though it only occurs once after it's been used, of course, by one mine again. So after it's been used, it can't be done again, and then you have to place down, I believe, another mine for it to happen again. I believe. I think you have to. I can't recall if it does it like for each mine, or if it's just one trial at a time, of course. So obviously, you just got to be mindful when you're using it, and just know that once it gets wasted, of course. But I think if it doesn't get wasted, I think it's also really good. That means you can just place down another mine, and then it will still keep the effect. So that means you can still use it for like a second time on another certain effect, of course. So there is some pretty good moments where if you time it just right with that recharge perk, it can prevent it from being used completely, and it will obviously, of course, give you a chance to figure out good strategies on where you want to kind of time it right with the different X-Pops and Prime Masses that run by it. The next one is Frenzy, and this is actually pretty helpful quite a bit. Basically, what this Frenzy perk will do is that it will make it where if you walk through the smoke following the explosion after it's been triggered, you actually can gain an adrenaline boost with this that lasts for a nice good few seconds. Basically, it's like whenever you use the adrenaline boost syringes, obviously, in the game right there, it's like a freebie right there, which actually is pretty grateful. So that means you can get a speed boost to escape. You place this down, you finish your objectives, and then you just run over to the smoke after it's been used, if it's still going off, and just consume that smoke, and just get that free adrenaline boost, and you're off out of there in no time. And it lasts for a nice good few seconds, probably the same length as the adrenaline boost syringe. So it's really helpful quite a lot to get great escapes and to really take advantage of that, of course. So definitely find some good timing with that. The last one before the F1 for prepared is the decreased cooldown, which is the same one we talked about in the stun rig. It just reduces the cooldown from 180 seconds to 144 seconds. So it's the same thing like before. Nice reduction right there to help you out, of course, right there. So it really does come in handy. The blind rig overall is a not bad rig, of course. I still prefer the stun rig, honestly, but I think the blind rig can still be quite helpful for a lot of good strategies in mind. And I would recommend whenever you're using this, just remember, figure out the placements based on certain types of trials you're doing. Like, of course, if you're doing this, like, for example, on like during the courthouse ones, it's good to find certain situations where you want to use that during the objectives around the hallways or inside the rooms itself that enemies might crawl through. Or if you're doing this inside the, of course, the Futterment and amusement park and stuff like that, you want to probably find out places where they'll come through doors or obviously down certain little crawling spaces nearby, so that you can just be ready, of course, to kind of run around very easily and take advantage of that adrenaline boost, and even also just, just find good strategies as possible to, help you out in, like, objectives and positioning where you are to the enemies, and then just make sure you obviously take advantage of that, so that when you're doing the objectives, you at least have a better chance to stun the enemy when they start getting close to you for that stuff, and then also take advantage of that adrenaline boost so you can use that to escape, of course. Not to mention a second rearm, so if you happen to still need to complete the objective, you can at least have it again, of course, for later, which can really be helpful quite a bit. I still think the stun rig, again, like I said, is still better because you can still use it as much time as you want, and the cooldown can be more reduced if you're trying to use it against traps. And this one does not sabotage traps at all, so you won't be able to take out traps. This is only for specifically taking out the threats. So it can be quite weaker when it comes to the stun rig, because at least with the stun rig, I can use it to take out traps first and get rid of them. So more than I have to take care of X pops or prime assets at all. So you can easily just kind of just whoosh in and just get rid of traps. But with the blind rig, it's mostly focused just to help you take out and blind threats, which to me is still decent in its own way completely. Just, in my opinion, just not as better compared to the stun rig. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people can agree with that if you guys believe me for that for sure if you tested it out. Now moving on, next is the heal rig, and it's basically as you expect. It is a aerosol gas canister that you can carry and that replenishes your health, also along with health of nearby allies, which this makes it a very heavily supportive and team-based rig that can really come in handy quite a bit. And I would highly recommend this one when you're playing with a team, mostly more. It can still be useful on your own, but most of the time, though, I would recommend using it just with teammates. If you're playing on your own, I would recommend just using any other rig most of the time, though, and it's just focus on just trying to make sure you get a lot of heal bottles you can collect during your trials, of course. The rig has a duration of 2 seconds, so it lasts for 2 seconds before normally, of course, while it's being used. So make sure you take advantage of this at a good timing when you're with your teammates, of course. It has a 180-second cooldown, of course, obviously, as usual, like all the different rigs. It has a range of 2 meters, so it's quite short, or normally it's the same distance. It has a noise range of 15 meters, so be mindful. It is very, very loud. So obviously, if enemies are nearby, this means they will most likely hear it, and if they hear it, they will come after you, of course, so be very careful when using it. On the bright side also, as well, is that this also could be used inside hiding spots, which means if you're obviously going around somewhere and you need to hide, you can use this, and it can help you out quite a bit, of course, to be used when you're trying to hide safely, of course. Just be mindful, though, of the noise you make. So that means they will be alerted to yourself, so be very, very careful. As always, with the perks right there, they will, of course, have the decreased cooldown, which is reduced from 180 to 144 seconds, so that's pretty cool. And prepare, which means it's on the trial, of course, so that's to be expected, just so you know. But let's get right onto the other perks itself. It has the expand radius again for this one. It increases the range of it from 2 meters to 4 meters, and making it a little more or easier to hit your allies if they're a little bit close. Just make sure they're still within range, of course. The next one is called Silent Help, which makes it where healing occurs silently, which is great for that situation, of course. So that means now it will not make noise if you have this perk. So obviously, if you get this, you're basically going to be safe for sure when you're hiding in lockers or you're around sneaking around very easily, which means no enemies will hear your noise of your aerosol healing can whatsoever. So it's a very essential for sure to use this. I would make sure you grab this on the spot. Extend duration, which just extends the duration of the healing effect from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. So it will make it very easily now to make the healing effect go quickly and heal your teammates very swiftly. So it's really helpful to get this for sure. Detox. This one is really helpful. Basically, it makes it where the healing gas will now also cure psychosis, which is very helpful for sure, especially in the more tougher, difficult trials if you're playing on the highest difficulty. So basically, what this will do is it will help cleanse you, because typically you would just have to find those psychosis curers right there that are inside those inhalers you'd find. But basically what this one does is just it will allow you to do it for free right there on it. So it's a very helpful way to cleanse yourself very easily of your psychosis. So make sure you get this for sure, because this will help you and your teammate if you're doing any tough or difficulty-related trials. This can really come in handy, because psychosis is something you do not want to deal with. It could be a pain in the ass with psychosis. And last is poison, mentioned right here, which makes it where if any enemies are at all within your healing gas, it will actually briefly slow them down. So basically, it acts as like a poison for enemies as it is healing for allies. So that means you're healing allies, and if enemies get too close to them, they're going to slow down for a bit. It will enemies are only like stunned during the activation briefly, but it's not very long. It's like a 1 to 2 second a bit. But the effect of it is slowing it down, which lasts for like 5 seconds. So that means any enemies that get caught within that will really be slowed down, sluggish down. I think it's around 75%. So that means you now have 5 seconds of enemies being slowed down that much, which can really come in handy. Just take note, though, of course, the Jaeger, of course, mentioning is not affected by this. So everyone else can be affected by this, but not the Jaeger. So be very mindful. when using this, of course. So be very careful. It will not slow specifically that one primary asset. This is a really good rig to help you out in many situations. I think it's great for the use on many higher difficulty challenges, especially both by yourself or with teammates. But I would say this is preferable with teammates more, as most of the time, though, I feel like it will come in handy a lot more when you're at least trying to aid your teammate with this, as it feels more supportive based. So I would usually run this when I'm very heavily trying to support my team very easily. So I would not waste any time to run this, of course, when you're playing with your friends, of course, right there, obviously. But it can be helpful on your own, especially if you're doing the higher difficulties again, too, both by yourself or with teammates, because again, this can let you heal. This can help you with psychosis. Just be mindful, though, that again, and on like a more higher difficulties, the cooldown ounce of it is more extended a lot. So be very careful with that. But nevertheless, it's still very helpful, quite a lot indeed, especially when dealing with moments where you're getting thrashed and bashed by enemies. And that psychosis stuff can really be annoying to deal with sometimes too, so this can really kind of help in hand and right there when that situation just kind of pops out in the view. So make sure you drop this in with your teammates and do some good helpful support heals. Next is the X-Ray rig, and it's self-explanatory. It's a tactical enhancement to see through walls and reveals all the locations of enemies and teammates. But with some upgrades, it's going to also do a lot more than that too as well to aid you and your teammates completely. This is a very heavily, really good objective focus related rig. So if you want to help yourself or your teammates find those objectives, secondary objective, or keep an eye out and track where everyone is or any enemies, this is going to really come in handy quite a bit. The duration of the X-Ray lasts for 8 seconds once in use. It actually has a very shorter cooldown compared to once. Instead of now being 108 seconds, it is 45 seconds. This is really, really, really helpful quite a bit for this type of rig right here for the objectives. And I would recommend definitely running this for sure if you want to play a little bit objective based and deal with enemies right there. It can really come in handy quite a bit. This allows you, again, to usually reveal all your fellow reagents and your X pops. So this will help you quite a bit. There's no noise being used whatsoever. It's a very silent one because it focuses on your X-ray thermal goggle, your X-ray vision goggles right there that you have, which goes combined with your normal night vision, which also upgrades will help you out quite a bit. You can use this while hiding, of course, and it has a 15-meter range. So that means anything within 15 meters or less will obviously be shown through the radars. But this will also help out quite a bit for sure when we get through some of the upgrades, because there is some very helpful stuff to kind of add on to it. It's really good. And I recommend running this quite a bit. Actually, this was my first rig that I actually ran when I first got on this game, and it's really helpful. I mean, something to help you out find these objectives, it comes in handy. It really does. It can really come in handy quite a bit. Now, as usual, there are 8 upgrades. The 2 upgrades I'll just mention quickly is, of course, Prepare and Decrease Cooldown. Same thing before. Prepare will basically let you start the trial, and Decrease Cooldown, which reduces it to from 45 seconds to 36 seconds. So it's a smaller reduction, not as big as the other ones previously, but this is fine nevertheless, though, because I mean 45 seconds, it's quite a short cooldown for this type of rig, and if you went any lower than that, I'm pretty sure that would be kind of busted, but this is still pretty good nevertheless either way. The first perk to kick off thing also is Shared Intel, and basically what it does, it allows you all allies to see the location of tagged enemies. Basically, any enemies that are seen within the X-ray will be shown to allies. So that means if an enemy at all is within the viewpoint whatsoever, they're going to also see the X-ray of them as well, and they will know where they are completely, making it easier to see where they are, which really helps out quite a bit. The next one is Research Intel, which allows the X-ray goggles to then reveal consumable items nearby, meaning any medicines, batteries, adrenalines, bricks, bottles, lockpicks, syringes, rig rechargers, whatever, will all be revealed with the X-ray goggles completely. The next one is Classified Intel, which acts the same way as the Resource Intel, but instead helps you find very bigger related items. In other words, it helps you find documents, posters, the booster items, the master key, mines, and traps, so that you'll know if there's any threats nearby. Help you find your secondary objective very easily, and or also find documents if you want to get some lore or for within the Outlast Trials, and even also find the booster items and the master key, which you can usually only find mostly only if you find the confidential room. This is very helpful because if you find that, you're going to get some pretty good permanent upgrades to use for the rest of that trial, which will really come in handy quite a bit. And the best part about this is the mines and traps. Like, you're going to be safe for sure when you use this. You're going to find those traps with ease, and they're not going to be a problem whatsoever if you run into that stuff. So keep an eye out for that when you see a trap, and when you see it, just be cautious with using this. It really helps you out quite a bit to keep an eye out. The next one is the Extend Duration, which, as a guess, it extends the duration of the X-ray use from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. So a nice small increase to the duration so you can keep using it for a bit until it eventually shuts down and goes on a cooldown. So this quite helps out a bit. The last one is the battery transfer, which just makes it where using the X-ray will recharge the night vision battery. It recharges like a small portion of it. It's not a crazy lot, but it's still quite a good amount right there. It can really help you out whenever you need to, of course, the most. So if you run out whatsoever of batteries and you can't find it and you need to use the X-ray, you can search around and find it. And not only that, it also helps you out with getting a little bit of recharge, so you can just use that if you need to make your way to the destination in the dark. So very helpful for sure with both objectives, very helpful with finding these traps and items, and keeping you in check when you need to see through the night completely if you run out of batteries. Overall, it's a really, really good rig for the objective play right there. I love this one. It's one of my first ones I've used personally, and I actually like this still quite a bit. It can be really helpful to get through objectives. It can help you really quite a bit to keep an eye out on a lot of stuff like that for sure. And it will help you keep track of a lot of traps, enemies, stuff like that. It's basically the best way to kind of know where everything else is and everyone else is, and just plan your strategy in mind for each different trial. I mean, most of the time, though, if you know what you're doing and know how to deal with all the different threats and where the items could be impossibly, you shouldn't have no issue worrying about that. But it still is a really helpful one to keep track of it, nevertheless, for traps and enemies, at least I would say. And sometimes really helpful for the secondary objective, because sometimes those posters could be very annoying to find sometimes in the dark. When you like suspect it's like not there, and then you go back and you realize, oh, it was there or something like that, and it's like, oh shit. And so it's just like really helpful with that completely. And that battery transfer is also quite helpful too. So I find that very nice to kind of help me out with that completely whenever I'm like running out of battery and on the harder difficulties when items are so limited. Moving on to next is the Barricade rig. The Barricade rig, what it does, it allows you to install a barricade on the door to temporarily block it and delay enemies or pursuers. This one I'm a little bit about, honestly, for its concept that I've been practicing use for pretty much, but I will, of course, explain in more detail basically what it does and kind of give my personal opinion on it a bit more. But I am very mixed with this one because I'm just like, meh, in my opinion. But nevertheless, let's get right into it. So basically, as it says, it will just allow you to install a barricade onto a door that will block it and delay enemies or pursuers, making them have to destroy like a normal door, basically. So it acts like a second door to it. Hell, I mean, you can even place it on an existing area that used to have been a destroyed door, and you can just place it there and it will have to be broken yet again, which can quite come in handy quite a bit sometimes to slow down enemies. But, I mean, it's pretty much all it can do. So it has an installation time of 3.5 seconds, so it takes that much time to install, so it's pretty quick. It has a cooldown of 45 seconds, shorter cooldown. I love it, at least. That's not bad for this kind of concept. It has an unlimited duration for its barricade, meaning it can stay there for a very long time completely, obviously, and will never disappear until either you remove it or a teammate destroys it, or, of course, if an enemy destroys it. However, though, you can only place one barricade at a time, though. The enemies who bash it may vary, so it may be different depending on certain enemies, since all different X-Pods and different prime assets usually are usually different on how they destroy, how long it takes them to do it. The friendly bash usually takes about once. It's only one time it takes for a friendly person to bash it, of course. So it obviously, of course, will be quick and easy for allies, but it may take some time, of course, certainly depending on different enemies. The range is just through doorways, so you can only place the doorways at all. Obviously, it doesn't make any noise whatsoever, of course. Now, what makes this so special, actually, if you want to know about this, at least I will say that's one good thing, is that it can be placed on doorways, it can be placed on doors, it can also be placed on window frames, which is nice. It could disarm door traps, which will come in handy quite a bit. It can destroy door locks. So that means if you do not have any of the perks that help you destroy with the brick, or if you don't have a lockpick at all, you can use this and it will help destroy them as well too. So this is actually one good thing though. And locked doors can get bashed in just one hit completely, obviously. So it's really helpful for sure, obviously, to help make it easier, of course, with that kind of stuff. And automatically destroyed when another barricade is placed. So that means, obviously, if you place it, the other one will be destroyed completely as well. So it makes it easier, of course, to get things kind of in motion right there. So the main concept of this rig is to better secure doorways and reduce it for the time it takes, like increase the time it takes for enemies to bash it even more, and make it easier for you to keep an eye on them completely on many different situations. And it can also help you out with dealing with door traps and even door locks. So it's like another situation there. I'm still very about it because most of the time, though, you could run certain perks to help you with that. Or if you, as long as you just play smart very easily, you can easily just unlock doors with lockpicks or use perks to help you out with that. And there's even also another rig we'll begin to just one that actually can help you out deal with those locked doors as well. And other lockpick related things without the need of a lockpick. And not only that, though, also, like, I mean, again, if you're very smart, you're going to know where there's a door trap sometimes. I mean, people will fall for it. I fell for door traps still many times, but as long as you're, like, careful, you're going to easily, you know, avoid the door traps. As for the perks, it all runs pretty much the same aim when it comes to prepared, but it does not have a cooldown related one, at least not the one to the extent, at least, is that we've had at the level 7 perk, because they actually swapped it out to it. There is still a decreased cooldown, which is the second. Now for the perks, of course, it has the same ones like before. Obviously, it has prepared and the decreased cooldown. So decreased cooldown will reduce it to 36 seconds like they did with the X-ray rig. And prepared, which, of course, makes it effectively a bit ready for the trial at the start. Or, of course, if you happen to be revived or respawn in the trial if you die. Now, for the kickoff of the first one I mentioned real quick is the increased resistance, which just makes it where barricades require more hits to break. So that means basically it will give it a little more time for enemies to bash it. So it increases it by just simply one extra base bash completed. So that means instead of it usually being like, for example, I believe typically one of the prime assets, I believe, or some of the prime assets usually take about 3 hits, I believe it takes for them to break it. So that means it takes now 4 hits, I believe, for them to break that open. And I guess on top of the door, it's a little bit more on that top of that. So you can imagine the possibilities it's gonna take for them to, you know, get through the doors and be able to get through all of that completely, of course. So it can really be helpful to slow down enemies a little bit more and give you time to evade, or at least, of course, slow them down, of course, if you need to hide somewhere in the dark or whatever. The next one is quick installation, which just makes installing the barricade more quickly. So instead of 3.5 seconds, it makes it 2.5 seconds, which is also really nice. I like that installation quickness right there. It's pretty helpful. Incoming warning, which is pretty unique to this one, and just makes it where when enemy breaks the barricade door, it automatically makes them ping to you. So like how you ping them with the certain button indication on mouse or control, whatever it is for you guys, basically it does the same thing, but when they break the door. So you'll see an indication with a barricade symbol on it, and it will let you know that the barricade has been destroyed and let you know where the enemy is. And it will keep track of them and will last there for a few seconds, so you'll know where they are and you know that the barricade's been destroyed. So it's a very nice, helpful perk to kind of come in handy quite a bit. I still think it's not really that fantastic, honestly, because you can either just ping them yourself or just use the X-ray rig, like I mentioned before, to keep an eye on them or anything else like that. But this can come in handy on top of that a little bit, so there is some interesting use to that. And the next one is Friendly Breach, which makes it where whenever you or a teammate break the barricade yourself, the rig cooldown speeds up. It reduces it by half if the barricade's broken by an ally or yourself. It's a way to kind of, if you want to get rid of it yourself and get out of the way, or if a teammate needs to get out of the way, but you don't want to wait so long for about 36 seconds at all for it to come back. So it'll be a little more quickly. So that's very helpful quite a bit. And the last one to help out is the extra barricade, which makes it where you can place a maximum of 2 barricades instead of 1. So now, instead of now placing 1, you can now place 2. So you can use it to block 2 doors, or 1 door, 1 window, or 2 windows, and vice versa. Very helpful. Nice to kind of get around, which kind of acts pretty good defensive. I think it's pretty nice. So there's some pretty good use out of that completely. And I do appreciate the kind of use out of it for sure. And I think it's really nice, of course, to kind of have that extra barricade a little bit. So that does make it slightly a little bit better. For me, I'm very mixed with this one because, again, the barricade isn't terrible. I just think it's just not the greatest, in my opinion. I mean, like, you're mostly using this just to slow down enemies and to keep track of them with barricading doors and windows. And even though that can kind of be helpful, but it won't help you for very long, since you got to keep your eyes peeled a lot when you're placing them alive if you're going to use them on certain doorways and stuff like that. And even then, all it's going to do for you is just slow them down a bit, or mark them down when they break the door, or just kind of have more to use out of it. I don't know. I feel like it's better to just run some of the other rigs I mentioned previously already as it is. It's just kind of low situation to me a little bit there. It's, in my opinion, really not the most greatest, of course. So you're going to see where I'm going to be placing this very soon, most likely, in my opinion, right there. But I just feel like I just feel like for sure it's just not the greatest. I don't think it's really terrible. I'm not saying it's terrible. I just think it's definitely not my favorite pretty much because it's not going to be that useful for long, knowing you're going to just go ahead and just place this on or two on a door or window and then expect the enemy to break it down, and that's about expect to get any kind of leverage out of it. Sure, you might slow them down for a few seconds, but you usually can easily get away from enemies with these and then close the door and then get away and hide somewhere very easily because there's enough dark places, there's enough hiding spots that you'll be able to just, you know, do that very much. Even in like psychosurgery stuff like that, that might be very risky to do so because enemies will be more quickly and more aggressive. So I probably wouldn't run this well if you're going to run something like the stun ring stuff like that. Not to mention the fact that it's still a very long cooldown, those ones with the variables and stuff like that. So you kind of have to be a little situation right there. The only good things about it is if you want to use it to destroy door traps, break down door locks, or if you want to have that upgrade to get more than one barricade and even just have a better way to kind of just like ping enemies a bit. But besides that, it's just kind of meh in my opinion. Now on to our last rig to discuss right here, and that is the jam rig. And I'm pretty excited about this one because it's actually another fun one I like to use a lot. The jam rig makes it where it allows you to disable any electronic devices, unlock padlock containers and doors, and with some upgrades, even help you out with deal with some nasty little traps around, which we'll get to very soon. Basically, this rig lets you just do is just use this device to hack certain devices and use them to your advantage right there. The normal hacking speed lasts for about 4 seconds when hacking televisions, padlocks, traps, and gates. So anytime you're trying to open up a certain, obviously, like door that's locked, or you're trying to hack certain traps, or if you're trying to open up padlocks more and stuff like that, or even sabotage and destroy televisions, so you'll find something like that, it basically lasts for 4 seconds. But the only other one on that's a little bit more is the secret room door, the confidential room, which lasts about 2 more seconds. So about 6 seconds you can hack with that stuff. The cooldown for it starts at 90 seconds usually, of course, but obviously it lasts a little bit different based on certain things. If you hack the radio, which is basically part of the secondary objective, the televisions and the radio are both part of the secondary objectives, my ad. Radio's hacks will usually give a 60-second cooldown. And the television as well too. If you hack normally padlocks, traps, and gates, they will last for about 90 seconds. And if you hack the secret room door, the confidential room door, it will last about 120 seconds. So it does vary on a lot. As for the perks right there, mentioning, of course, Prepared is back again for that one too as well. And the decreased cooldown is also back there too, but I'll get to that in just a moment because there's a lot more difference to all that as well. So I'll explain that in just a moment. To kick things off with the perk right there, starting off is Pacemaker, and what this actually does, it automatically activates for self-revive. Basically, it can only be used to revive a dead teammate from a distance, both once per trial as well. So that means you can use both this for yourself and teammates, but it's only once per trial though. So once it is used, it is gone on for good. It lasts for about 10 seconds for hacking speed, and then it goes on an extensive 120-second cooldown when in use. So this is a long cooldown for this one perk as well, too. So much to do to unlocking the confidential room with this one, but besides the buttons. But this is actually pretty helpful for you and your teammates. If you want to give yourself a self-revive and stuff like that, this could be quite helpful. I definitely recommend and definitely keep an eye on this one. I don't use this too often because I survive pretty easily and don't have teammates that are really dying constantly, but this can really come in handy quite a bit for sure. Moving on is the decreased cooldown one, which is, like I said, decrease the cooldown time before the rig could be used again for this one. And this one has a lot of variations for it, so let me just go through real quick. Basically, it now, instead of it starting at about, instead of 90 seconds for the cooldown, it will start now at 45 seconds. For hacking a television, instead of 60 seconds, it's now 45 seconds. Same goes to the radio. Instead of 90 seconds of the padlock, it's also 45 seconds now for cooldown. For traps, it's a 60-second cooldown instead of 90 seconds. For gates, same thing again, 60 seconds instead of 90 seconds. For the secret room, instead of 120 seconds, it's 90 seconds. For reviving, same thing right there, from 120 to now 90 seconds. And for when you're, of course, getting corrupt enemies at all, if you're trying to affect them with their certain traps, it's now, instead of 120 seconds, it's 90 seconds. Corrupt enemies is going to be a little perk we're going to get into in just a moment. That's going to come in handy a bit, so we'll explain that a little more in just a moment. Improved jammer, which makes it where anytime at all, the jammer will home at a much more faster speed when hacking. So that means you're able to hack more quickly. So For televisions and radios, it will now, instead of maybe 4 seconds, it takes 2.5 seconds to hack them. For padlocks, traps, and gates, instead of about 4 seconds, it's also 2.5 seconds as well. For the secret room, instead of taking 6 seconds, it takes 5 seconds. For reviving people with this, instead of 10 seconds, it takes also 5 seconds. And for corrupting enemies with the corrupt enemies perk, instead of it taking 6 seconds, it now takes 5 seconds, which is really helpful, of course, in case you want to get things done quickly. Long distance, which makes it where you can use the jammer from a longer distance. It usually can only reach pretty far, about 2 meters. Forgot to mention about that, by the way, 2 meters. But now it's much easier to reach. It now can reach up to 8 meters now. So as long as you're within 8 meters or less of anything to hack, you can easily get it. If you're too far away, it's not going to be hacked whatsoever. For the range of corrupt enemies for that perk as well, instead of it being 8 meters, it will now be 10 meters. So it makes it a little more easy to corrupt enemies with that too as well. Rewire makes it where turn traps against enemies. Basically, it makes traps from enemies to friendly for you permanently. It's a way to kind of course, deal with more traps and then add them to your, your teamwork right there, to your group right there, complete, so that you can help you and your allies deal with it with these and keep them, of course, obviously protected from triggering said trap and use them against enemies that walk by it. So any traps they usually used before, it will now affect them. Just take note though, it's permanently on your side and it could work against enemies. Some traps and devices are still disarmed instead sometimes, so they might not even be activated all the time. They'll just be disarmed most of the time. And even reagents can still disarm traps and can also still be harmed by the traps, even if they are turned into friendly traps if enemies trigger them. So if you're triggering a mine trap that usually gives out psychosis gas, and there's an ally in front of it, it won't just be enemies being affected by it. It will also be allies. So take note, though, when you're going by your own friendly trap using this perk and your allies. Be very careful. The last one to mention is, of course, Corrupt Enemies, which is the perk I've been mentioning about right now. And basically what Corrupt Enemies does, it allows you to basically, corrupt enemies with this causing interruptions in their normal behavior. Basically, it allows you to, within 6 seconds, if you can hack enemies, and it will basically make them act very abnormal, of course. It has a 120-second cooldown with this one only, and it will never change whatsoever. It can only be done within 8 meters usually, but obviously with the cooldown stuff, like I mentioned, it will, with the perks earlier, it will, of course, reduce it. So it would obviously, of course, go from obviously 120 seconds to about 90 seconds, and then it will last, instead of 6 seconds, it would last for 5 seconds, and instead of 8 meters, it will be 10 meters if you have that, of course. And it will allow you to basically just affect them to kind of slow them down a bit and kind of trick them up a little bit more and make it easier to get around them or something like that. So it's a nice little trick way to kind of affect them a bit. I don't use this too often, but it can be sometimes quite fun to use a little bit more if you need to, of course. The only other person that can be affected is, of course, I'll mention, is the Jaeger. The Jaeger cannot be affected whatsoever, so don't even bother trying to use it on them. It will not affect them. It's very helpful if you want to slow down enemies a bit more, and it adds to the idea about what this jammer rig can do to mess with traps, can mess with devices and other related things to get through doors or get items. And not only that, though, just deal with enemies in your way. So I find this quite helpful for sure, and recommend taking advantage of this whenever you see someone that's in your way and you need to kind of keep them off your back a bit. So definitely use this. It can really cause some disruption in their patterns and how they work and their behavior against you. Overall, I really definitely also enjoy the jammer rig as well too. I find this most helpful just to get items or open up locked doors a lot most of the time. But the corrupt enemies one can also really come in handy quite a bit sometimes and can really do some pretty good moments right there when you want to use them and just time it right to use them in like situations. Sometimes I just prefer this a little bit less though, since you can run certain perks to help you deal with the lockpick stuff like that, or I usually just prefer other related rigs a little bit more. But it can still be quite helpful a little bit if you need to do certain situations to slow down enemies or to kind of get you around certain things they usually cannot get past unless you get a lockpick or use a certain perk to break down the lock. Or, of course, obviously, if you need to get rid of traps and you have other related ways you can destroy them, but you use instead the jammer rig to use it to your advantage to help you out. So it can be pretty helpful in many situations. And it can really come in handy. I also like that revive one. The revive one is also pretty nice. Okay, so now we've gone through all the rigs. I explained to you each and every one of them, what they do. Now, with all my thoughts into outer, now where do I rate these exact rigs and where I put them? Well, this is where I would put them right here, as you see right now on screen. I put the Barricade rig at number 6. At number 5, I put the Jammer rig. At number 4, I put the Heal rig. At number 3, I put the Blind rig. At number 2, the X-Ray rig. And number 1, the Stun rig. So where do you probably ask, why do I put each of these and where they are? Let me explain. the reason why I put the Barricade rig again in sixth place and last, and is my least favorite of the rigs, is just because I just don't really prefer this as much compared to the other rigs. And I just think the use of an extra barricaded way to block down doors and windows is just unnecessary. I mean, don't get me wrong, door traps and door locks to be destroyed with this can be kind of handy a bit, and then the extra bit of hits and the use of 2 barricades and knowing where the enemies are when they break it down can come in handy sometimes. But I just feel like you're better off just pinging enemies and using other stuff to help you deal with the enemies and slow them down, or just really use other amps and other stuff to kind of help you slow down the door traps and also door locks anyway. That just makes it unnecessary to run a rig in that spot when you could use other stuff to help you in other situations. And it just doesn't feel as impactful, in my opinion, though, for any of my previous trials. I've used this multiple times. I just think it's just kind of meh, in my opinion, though. It can be used, but it's one of the weakest, in my honest opinion. The jammer rig I put in 5th place, though. It's not because I'm trying to treat it any worse and similar like the Barricade rig. It's just, to me, though, is like it's not as impactful, again, as well compared to the other rigs above. I feel like with the jammer rig, it can come in handy quite a bit when trying to, like, you know, use it for like destroying the traps, or using it against your own enemies against them, or trying to hack and corrupt the enemies, or just use it as a revive, which is pretty dope too. But most of the time, though, I just think I can use this for other reasons to help me out destroy traps most of the time than more about using them against enemies. And again, with the stun rig, it can help you destroy both, do both at the same time, stun the enemy and even do something like that too as well. So I just find this null and void. The only good thing about it is to help me out when I'm trying to take care of padlock doors and items that I need to deal with. So I guess that's one benefit, and with the revive. But besides that, I think it's the more weakest one in my honest opinion, though. The heal rig I put in like 4th place, only because I mostly prefer this one if I'm with teammates. I think it's not a terrible one. I love the idea of healing more people very easily, slowing down the enemies, and especially dealing with the psychosis. But the most of the time, though, it's only beneficial, in my opinion, though, when I'm with teammates. I just feel like when I'm playing on my own, I just run either blind, the X-ray, or the stun rig. I just feel like those are either the better ones, in my opinion, though, and I would rather run those most of the time. If I'm going to play with teammates, I'm going to run the heal rig most of the time, though, if I wanted to. Because with the heal rig, I could just go heal my teammates up very much with ease and just kind of get them better, like, you know, going and get rid of the psychosis. And not to mention, I've ran into many people who are new to the game, and I had to run that to help them out quite a bit. And I have managed to save a lot of teammates with ease because of that. So sometimes I just feel kind of grateful, at least, that I have someone like that. And it really just really helps out quite a bit, for sure, for that. But most of the time, though, I just think it's better if you're with teammates. If you're on with your own, I just think it's just kind of meh, in my opinion, honestly. But it can still be quite useful. It's just meh useful. For 3rd place, I know I gave it to the blind rig. I was close to giving it to the X-ray rig, but I just feel like with the blind rig, it's basically just like the stun rig, but meant for more like positioning and placing and certain objective-related work. It's great to help you out with stunning enemies and kind of give you an adrenaline boost, and it can be rearm, which is nice on that one-time use right there. But most of the time, though, you're just better off really just running the stun rig if you really want to stun enemies very easily, because this works better with the stun, because the stun rig has worked better if you're trying to stun the enemy and get rid of traps and all that stuff, and it gives you a little more of the battery and stamina. This one just gives you only stamina. It does not destroy the traps. It only does is stun the enemies. And sure, it stuns them for quite a bit of good time, like the stun rig right there, and blinds them. But most of the time, though, I would rather just run the stun rig, in my honest opinion, though, completely. It's still pretty good, but I just feel like it's only good when you're, like, really want to, like, not run stun rig, and you want to run this and do, like, certain place and positioning. X-ray rig takes the 2nd place spot to me because I love this one a lot for objectives. It really comes in handy quite a bit to help me see where everyone else is, my allies, my enemies, items if I need the most, traps to deal with, stuff like that. So if I don't want to worry about destroying them, or worry about trying to like figure out where the items are and get kind of claustrophobic where they could be in the dark or whatever, I can just use this to my advantage, though. And it just really helps out quite a bit to get around very easily, and can help you even find main objectives too as well, or just any other related objective. It comes in handy quite a lot, and I just love this one so much. It's just so good to be able to see where everything is with this. It's really good, especially in the concept of a game that involves you sneaking around in the dark. So it's really helped quite a bit. Stun rig, I mean, obviously it takes the #1 spot. It's probably one of the most busted and most really used, like, it's probably one of the most, I will say, overpowered rigs. I know overpower is quite saying stuff a lot for a reason, but like honestly though, that is pretty true if you really believe me on that completely honestly. Like you can use this to throw to enemies. It will stun them for an extensive amount of time. It can reach out pretty far. And with the upgrades, you can get back some battery. You can get back some stamina. And not only that, you can destroy traps. If there's so many traps around you during tougher difficulties like psychosurgery or intensive, you're going to destroy traps on top of that, meaning you have less of a chance to be sabotaged so easily and more of a chance to survive because all you do is just place down, kill it, take out and stun enemy, destroy traps along the way, and run out of there. And next time you come back, you don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. The only thing to deal with is probably broken glass or something like that, or metal cans to deal with that will make noise. You pretty much got everything in the palm of your hand with ease with this. It's probably one of the most best examples of a rig to be used, and I've yet to wait until whenever Red Barrels announced any future next new rigs in the future that could topple the stun rig. I mean, after all, like at the time of launch, it was just really the stun, the blind, the heal rig, and the ace rig. And when the barricade and the jam rig came out, I was hoping they would maybe top the stun rig completely. But so far, stun rig, in my opinion, still stays on top. It still does. And overall, I mean, it is one of the bigger reasons why I think it's still one of the best and will remain that way completely. And it will still be remain completely. So, yeah, stun rig is number one in my opinion, though. Will remain on top for a while until whenever another rig ever gets announced, if it ever does happen very soon, the next future seasons or any other content drops. And we see what happens in the near future. So, only time will tell. But, yeah, to me so far, and this is my order right here with Barricade, considerably, in my opinion, one of the more weakest of the rigs, and stun rig taking the highest and the best, most favorited. All right, and with that, that ends this video of my first Outlast Trials video and the end of this rating video. I hope you guys found this really enjoyable, and definitely let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or not. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And make sure you definitely let me know your support by subscribing and hitting the like button if you found this video helpful. And if you want me to do more Outlast Trials videos, I might make more in the future to maybe do some more rating stuff like that about the trial, stuff like that. Maybe I'll discuss my feelings on some lore, or maybe discuss a couple related content related stuff maybe down the line, of course, if I decide to. It'll be kind of fun to kind of get into this because I've been enjoying playing Outlast Trials a lot again, and I've been streaming this a lot now lately, and I think this will be a good thing to make some videos on this for a game I know I'm dedicated to and enjoying so much. So I feel like this is definitely something I want to kind of discuss a lot for sure. So maybe we'll get some content out in the future. So if you want to see that, let me know, guys. But thank you everyone so much for the amazing support as always. I appreciate it for everything here on the channel, of course, and for all the support. And again, like I said earlier in the beginning, I'm not completely quitting on Dead by Daylight. It's just right now, it's just very mixed with everything going on. And I will probably have some video out to discuss my personal thoughts on it in the future later on. So stay tuned for that. But for now, we'll see what happens. But hey, so maybe some Outlast Trials content will be good for me because it'll be a fun game. I know I'm enjoying having a great time on it. So we'll see. But yep, thank you all for joining so much, guys. I hope you found this enjoyable. I'm your host, Game Pizza Boy, host of the Pizza Party, and I will see you guys next time here on the channel. Take care, my friends, and peace.